another name in Nigeria's presidential races, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, saying he won't back down from the 2027 race. Now, this matters because it means he could be going head-to-head with fellow ADC candidate and former Labour Party candidate Peter Obi. In a statement put out on Tuesday by his media advisor Paul Ibe, Atiku also blamed President Tinubu for working to eliminate any opposition. He stated in part, "This administration has not only inflicted widespread hardship, but has pursued a calculated effort to eliminate political alternatives. The objective is clear: a creeping de facto one-party state." Let it be stated plainly. The ADC is on a national rescue mission. Former VP Atiku Abubakar, alongside others, is central to this effort. Any call, overt or covert, for Atiku to step aside is a gift to authoritarian ambition and a betrayal of the Nigerian people. He adds, when the time comes, all qualified aspirants will present themselves freely. No one is stepping down. If anyone should step aside, it's President Tinubu, whose leadership has become a national liability. From 1993 to 2007, 2011 to 2015, 2019 and 2023, 2027 would make it the former vice president's 7th time going for the top job. And I'll take some reactions before coming to you, Rufai. The first person says, Atiku, everyone can run freely, sounds good on paper, but in practice, ADC politics have always been about who controls the machinery. Free competition is meaningless if the party elite already decides the winner behind the scenes. Then Adele said Atiku would probably be 80 years old by 2027, so he obviously knows that he doesn't have the strength and ability to lead Nigeria. A good dancer must know when to leave the dance floor. Let's see how everything plays out. So we'll get to Jonathan in a moment, but let's talk about this statement from the former vice president, his media advisor. How should we be looking at this? I mean, is it time for him to leave the dance floor?
No, see, I mean, there are people, there are leaders that are older. You know, Atiku has a right to run. He has a right to his ambition. People can say because of sentiment, yeah, so he's old and all of that. No, people have the right to run. But I think the point I want to happen is this. There's a gentleman's agreement, not written in black and white, that it's the turn of the South, which we think by default should be a 2-term, and afterward power goes back to the North. The times we have tried to break that agreement, there's a lot of fallback. A lot of people got irate and voted en masse for certain candidates because they felt it was the time of the South in the last election. This is what I'm going to say. Any attempt to sort of like tell Nigerians that, yes, people have a right to run and no, anybody, despite your region, to run, will infuriate a lot of Nigerians. And I'm beginning to hear some Nigerians say that any attempts to play this, they will not be happy about it. And we should be careful. I know these things I've said today will be taken out of context, will be controversial, it will trend. See, ideologically, I do not think your region should determine where the president will come from. I think it should be the best competent person to rule Nigeria or to lead Nigeria. I don't like to play this politics. But it is a sentiment that has now become obtainable. And when we deviate from that sentiment, people feel that some people are trying to feel they have more autonomy than some. And I think, let me set it down here, because this thing I'm saying today will open the floodgate for the debates for this electionary cycle that has started again. So let us all watch it. And with due respect, in the coming days, you're going to see reactions. And the reactions will be, you have no right to say that. It should be the turn of our region too. It is not only the South, and people are open to it. But I am just relaying some of the sentiments I've started hearing people say. That if it's an agreement where somebody from the South does 2 terms and afterwards keeps it to the power goes back to the North in 2031, and any attempt to break that in the middle will let people feel otherwise. And I think we should just put that in this conversation. So I'm ready for the backlash. I've said what I said.
He said what he said. And let's stay on politics for a quick moment, because meanwhile, we have former President Goodluck Jonathan also making it clear that he, however, is pretty optimistic about the state of the People's Democratic Party, with comments just yesterday that it's alive, it's strong, and resilient. Now, the former president said this while meeting with members of the PDP National Working Committee, and it was led by the national chairman, Dr. Kabiru Turaki, in his private office in Abuja. Now, the main purpose of this meeting you see here was twofold. One, to figure out how the party can reconcile after months of internal battles, and how to reposition themselves ahead of 2027. But according to Jonathan, it's possible. Turaki then spoke to the public, reaffirming Jonathan's commitment to the party. Let's watch.
As usual, for his support, for his guidance, for his advice, as always. And we have his assurance that he's still a card-carrying member of the People's Democratic Party. He's still active and will even be more active these days.
There you have it. And, Dr. Abati, I'll come to you on this, because how much do you think Jonathan's involvement with the PDP at this point can really move the needle for them? Where does the party stand right now?
Okay, well, in terms of context, the National Working Committee, led by the chairman of the party, who was elected in the PDP convention in Ibadan in November 2025, went to give a report to President Jonathan and seek his guidance, which is a normal thing to do. And it was in that process that the president made the point that, look, he remains a member of the People's Democratic Party, the same party that made him deputy governor, vice president, and president. The same party that had been the only surviving political party since the return to civilian rule, democratic process in 1998 and the general election in 1999. And he said he was available to continue to provide the guidance. That was the major thing that he said. And then, of course, the members of the team, including the chairman and party elders like Professor Jerry Ghana, who I think if anybody wants to write the history of the PDP as a political party, he's a man that they should go to, because he was the first major secretary of the party. He has all the records. It's a living library of PDP politics. And, they thanked President Jonathan for receiving them and all of that. I don't think any other meaning can be read into it. However, to rebuild the party, to renew the party, the chairman of the party himself made a point that, look, there are cases in court, and he has the expectation that if they are able to surmount the legal order, and that he, as a senior advocate of Nigeria, knows that those, challenges are surmountable, that the party will be ready to roll out. And to say that the PDP is alive and well, after all, the People's Democratic Party came second in the 2023 general elections with about 6.9 million votes. So it means that the party has potential, particularly at the grassroots level. So the fact that governors are defecting does not necessarily mean that the PDP army, among the people at the grassroots level, has defected. Those are the details that I think we can note. However, as for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, well, he says he's going to run again. And that the leader of the APC the candidate should emerge through an open, competitive process, which is what should happen ordinarily. And we know already that we have a three-way tussle now within the ADC. Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and also former Minister Rotimi Amechi. As for the people saying Atiku should not run, they cannot dictate to him. There is nothing in the Constitution that says he's not qualified. Yes, he may have run about 6 times. The other 2 times, making it 7, were times he contested in the primaries. He has also been on the platform of the, was it the SDP originally, the AC, and then also the PDP. Now he's in the ADC, after a fashion in Nigeria, where people just move from one platform to the other to achieve their ambitions. As for he being a perennial candidate, well, look at the example of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln became president of the United States in 1860. He had been running for office, House of Reps, Senate, and failing until 1860, when he now emerged as president of the United States. Maybe Atiku Abubakar is following the Abraham Lincoln model. Who knows? You know. But what we want is that in Nigeria, the region that was being referred to, I think we should get to a point whereby we don't play regional politics, where there must be a sunset clause to rotational presidency, where the leadership of Nigeria is not about where you come from or the amount of money you have, but about meritocracy, competence. We have properly educated, knowledgeable people in this environment. Gradually, we are chasing all of them away from the public sphere because the place has been taken over. You can be in this country, a tout will just become a governor. A man who has never worked in his life will suddenly show up in the House of Reps or the Senate to go and do what? To warm the bench. And before you know it, we will sit down here, we will be calling them distinguished senator. Somebody who does not even have a distinguished brain. So we need to reverse, you know, that kind of situation whereby it's our 12th 11 that get to positions of authority and they begin to live conspicuously, going about in convoys, using a security that should be protecting the Nigerian people. That kind of situation is not what the ideal of democracy projects. It is the hope that competent people will lead the country. So we should keep talking about meritocracy. Those who want to go into political office, they can go. But we, the people, must choose wisely. And we must be given the opportunity to choose wisely. And that's why voter education is important. Don't go and vote for touts and bus conductors to come and conduct the bus of Nigeria.
No, you will most likely, you see, with the kind of political structure.
Yes.
7 out of 10 times, you most likely vote for a tout.
That's why we say vote wisely.
No, it's not by saying vote wisely.
Okay.
Because the political structure throws up violence. The political structure shows up dictators and throws up those that can spend money. So a tout, once it gets money, once it gets violence, so most likely, until something shifts down the line, you most likely vote for a tout. So don't be surprised.
Well, that's why we're talking about electoral reform and an enabling environment and meritocracy. We can't continue like this.
Absolutely.
We can't.
Such good points.
Yeah. Some of these local government chairmen, do you even know your local government chairman?
Right.
Is he the local government chairman?
Yeah. No, at least you should know ministers. You should know ministers. We all did the social studies in school. They used to call it civics. They would tell you the minister of this, the minister.
Is it people that can't even tell you where they are from, their origins? What transpired at the back end?
No, you know, if you're a Nigerian, you're a Nigerian.
Yes.
You know, we shouldn't. Section 42 says you cannot discriminate on the basis of ethnic extraction, place of extraction, religion, or belief. I don't even care about that. As long as you have the competence and you are committed to the Nigerian ideal.
Absolutely. Competence is key. And from politics, let's stay in Abuja, where calls for justice are growing stronger after the killing of nurse Chinemerem Chukwumeziem of the Federal Medical Center in Jabi in Abuja. So this happened on Saturday, and according to the National Secretary of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses, Enya Osinachi, Nurse Chukwumeziem finished her afternoon shift and got on public transport to go home, but never made it there, as her body was later discovered. A video going around on social media shows her in what ended up being one of her last celebrations with her colleagues. Let's watch. May her soul rest in peace. And this tragedy has brought to the fore conversations around the need to protect already stretched healthcare workers. And as of now, we have not seen a statement from the Nigeria Police Force or FCT Police Command, but we will keep watching. And I'll just take one reaction from one of her former colleagues. Friday says, in a failed state, Nurse Chinemerem was killed by one chance operators in Abuja on her way home from afternoon duty, not from a club at midnight. The Nigerian state keeps failing us, yet some politicians don't want us to ask for what is legitimately ours. The hallmark of governance is to provide security for lives and properties, and this seems to be a challenging task for the government to achieve. Rest in peace to a great colleague. And Vinbai, you know, again, may her soul rest in peace. This is such a sad story, but how should you, or how should the public be seeing this? Something like this taking place in Abuja or anywhere really across the country. It's shocked so many people.
It's absolutely unacceptable, and it's one too many incidents, especially in the FCT. And you know, the context with which that last tweet you read, you consider this, you know, young lady, hardworking woman, a midwife, just closing from afternoon shift, broad daylight. It reminded me of Somi because she was in the comfort, the safety of her home. So that means that you're not safe anywhere at any time of the day, because we usually associate all these ills with, you know, moving at night and so forth. But if you can't move safely and if you can't be safe in your own home anymore, then what exactly are we doing? Several issues here. The fact that she's a midwife, and we know that Nigeria has one of the highest maternal infant mortality rates. So she is a VIP as far as I'm concerned in the healthcare profession, because the statistics say that the loss of one midwife affects 150 to 200 pregnant women in the system. And we already know the challenges and the pressure that are there, that already exist. We know that the doctors, resident doctors, are preparing to go on strike as well. So the pressure within the healthcare system itself is already massive, without adding the pressure of will I get home safely? It's unfair and it's unfortunate. Now, the other angle is the angle that I'd spoken about earlier when Rotus was here doing the business segment, which is around social policy, which is around the fact that the reason why people are kicking back against, you know, tax and, you know, having to pay their tax, hand over their hard-earned money, is because people don't have the confidence or the trust. There is no social contract that says that goods and services due to me as a citizen will be delivered, because under normal circumstances there should be a well-functioning transport system, especially in the capital city of one of the biggest nations on the African continent. You would expect that there's a service that moves. Now, when I was in Abuja, I remember someone pointed out to me that yes, there are some bus stations, some bus terminals that had been inaugurated, commissioned, they're said to be operational, but you never really see the buses on the road. So, there should be special services for those in healthcare, essential workers who work odd times and odd shifts. But in this instance, because when I read the story, I was expecting to hear that this happened in the middle of the night, but this is during broad daylight. So, you know, my condolences to her, to the family, to the entire medical fraternity who've certainly lost somebody who was a bright star and just beginning in her career. Reading some of the tributes from her colleagues, her friends and her family was just heartbreaking, because we are losing some of our finest and our most promising to things that are highly preventable. This issue of one chance, especially in Abuja, is totally out of control, and there's no reason for it whatsoever. And I hope the Minister of the FCT can return back from his, his tour of Rivers State to give a marching order on the ground with regards to, whatever security infrastructure. Yes, he doesn't control the police, but there are interventions that he can make as a de facto governor, if I may call it that, of that area.
Just a caveat. No, this is an unfortunate incident, but it has nothing to do with the Minister of FCT going back to Abuja, because some people have expressed that view. They say, Wike is in Port Harcourt, he should be in Abuja. It has nothing to do with it. It's about putting in place whether it's in the FCT or in any part of Nigeria, structures, strong security systems and structures that will ensure that everybody is protected. If Wike was in Abuja, is he the one that will be going around monitoring buses? No, don't let us stretch it that far.
Wouldn't he be the one ordering?
No, he's not even the one ordering. There are so many security systems there, so he doesn't have to be there. But we should have a system that functions. That is what is important. You said what?
But does he not oversee the functioning of some of those systems? It doesn't control
the security system in the FCT. You have the police, you have the DMI, you have the DSS, you have transportation systems and all of that. No, don't let us personalize it. The important thing, as the president has said, is that all of us must be safe. So the responsibility is not that of an individual. It's collective.
Absolutely. So we'll keep watching to see if we get any updates on that from the police or on the investigation into her killing. May her soul rest in peace. In another development, the British Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch revealed in an interview released on Tuesday that she believes U.S. President Donald Trump's actions in Venezuela were morally right. Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today Show, she expressed that even though the move from the U.S. might have been somewhat legally ambiguous, she understood why it was done. Let's watch.
Are you saying it was the right thing to do for the U.S. to send its special forces in and seize President Maduro?
Morally, yes. You listen to opposition leader Maria.
You're choosing your words, aren't you?
Yes, I am, because I don't understand the legal basis. But as we all know, international law is what countries agree to. Once people decide they don't agree, there is no international law. There's no world police, no world government, no world court. These are agreements. And when we look at what the opposition leader Maria Machado said, she said Venezuela had already been invaded by Russia, by Iran, by Hezbollah. Where were the people talking about international law then?
Now, Badenoch backed up her comments by basically drawing parallels between Nicolas Maduro and growing up here in Nigeria under Buhari and Abacha's military regimes. And her comments come as President Trump has also announced on Tuesday that Venezuela is set to turn over up to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. after removing Maduro, and that he would be the one controlling the money. And Rufai, I'll come to you on this. Nigeria and Venezuela, Kemi Badenoch seems to think that there's some sort of parallel between the two, and she understood the U.S.'s decision. How do you see her comments?
But at least I think we've able to establish the fact that Kemi Badenoch is an anti-Jemima, so she'll do anything to push Nigeria down. And she will make false equivalents and say things that are not substantiated with facts. So what's the meaning of you grew up under Buhari, and what's the equivalence with that? Okay, you say they were dictatorial in nature. Maduro was also dictatorial. So did America now go ahead to invade Nigeria and take those dictators out?
No.
Did they? So what equivalence are you trying to draw? And right in front there, Kemi Badenoch starts to lie, says that there are no international laws, international courts. I'm sorry, what's the ICC about?
The international rules-based
order.
The rules-based international
court.
So what's even what's the United Nations about?
No, she says nobody respects it. So everybody has been violating it. So if some other people have been behaving wrongly, and then that justifies bad behavior, that's the logic that I don't understand.
The same hypocrisy with America, who brought about United Nations after the League of Nations failed? Who brought about even the League of Nations in the first place? After we started to move towards entente cordiale. After we had most of the wars in the 1800s. So who brought about this? America, because they wanted to bring everybody together so we can respect something. But you have a leader that is violating it now, and Kemi Badenoch starts to support that leader because he espouses right-wing thoughts. So I would like to ask Kemi, now that the man has said he went in there because of the oil, he's taking most of the oils they blockaded, oil that is not America's oil, that was supposed to be shipped out to places like China and the other places. So should we continue? Is this not the same Kemi Badenoch? Is this not the same Britain that she is in, that you had the case of Sergei Skripal, that the UK was screaming when Sergei Skripal was attacked? Is this not the same country where when Alexander Litvinenko was attacked, the UK was screaming and led to sanctions against Russia. So what's the justification? That means Putin too can enter Ukraine the next minute and pick up Zelensky. You see, let me listen and try to analyze what Kemi Badenoch is saying. I think we've gotten to a point in the world where everybody should get a nuclear weapon. And it works wonders. You know why? Because if hegemons think they are greater than everybody and they are bullies, if everybody has a nuclear weapon, people sit down and they say, let's talk. Mm-hmm. The reason why Donald Trump can't try the rubbish he tried in Venezuela, in North Korea, is because Kim Jong-un has a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. And let me give you empirical facts. When, when they tried it, when President Kennedy tried it with the Bay of Pigs invasion, and they were not successful, the only thing that Russia did to support Cuba then was to take intercontinental ballistic missile and nuclear weapon on Cuban soil. Once America saw that, America was the one forced to make an agreement. That's what led to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Mm-hmm. So it goes back to the great quote by the great sage Muri Tonda, or Taye Currency, that says, and I quote,
is that a sage?
No.
Taye Currency.
The great sage of Fuji music, Taye Currency, that says, and I quote, "We're laughing, wo we're." It is a madman that we used to cure a madman. Because in one same breath, look at the same Europe that Kemi Badenoch is from now. When Trump starts to look at Greenland, they were quick to issue out a statement that, remember, they are both in NATO. So when Kemi says international order does not work, has she forgotten that there is NATO there? That an attack to one is an attack to all?
I think that, just to chime in very quickly, we're going to see more leaders pandering towards, having favor with Donald Trump, especially these opposition leaders who are trying to, to win that right-wing nationalist vote. Mm-hmm. Those who want to seem to be on the side of this American hegemony, mm-hmm. or, what America is trying to reinstate with regards to hegemony. However, every time we speak about Kemi Badenoch, I always refer to Frantz Fanon, and I say that, this is the epitome of colonization, right? The colonial project was, in many ways, as much as it was an economic... That's one of his leading books, mm-hmm. Yes. The epitome of the colonial project, he argues, was psychological. Mm-hmm. As much as there's the economic side, there's the psychological side. And, if you read this book, he talks about even language and the way we speak, and how if an African travels to, in his sense, because they were Francophone, he said if an African man travels to France and comes back to the islands, they speak their French with a different, and to them, if they're speaking like mainland French people, then they're superior. Mm-hmm. How does this connect? It connects with the fact that I'm not surprised that somebody like Kemi Badenoch, who likes to sort of pander to colonial sentiment, would be endorsing what is in essence a colonial project, because the US has colonized Venezuela. It is no different from what we saw a century ago happening around the world. And that is why there's anti-imperialist and anti-colonial forces that are now rising up across the global south, not just in Latin America. And unfortunately, mainstream media won't show you that. The fact that even those who oppose Maduro in Venezuela are now calling for his return because they're saying that they don't want to be an American colony. Right. So I'm not surprised that, somebody who's fulfilled the colonial project psychologically would be, supporting and praising the resurgence of imperialism in the world as we know it today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just say this very briefly. Now, while I dismiss Badenoch's false logic, and false comparisons, and a lack of understanding of international rules-based order, obviously, she's ignorant about the basic theoretical underpinning of that system. But there isn't much difference between what Kestama said
and
what Kemi Badenoch has said. It's just that she's more graphic, she's more enthusiastic, she's more opportunistic in stating the matter on the basis of Trump's invasion of Venezuela. And I think the understanding is simply that the British, they don't want to offend their ally. they are very good friends. So Kestama says, well, I don't have all the facts. I'm still studying. They took a cautious approach. Kemi Badenoch went a step further as leader of the opposition. I said, oh, what Trump did was morally right. Now, not too many people agree with that, but this is Britain sucking up to the United States. And Kemi Badenoch let the cat out of the bag by saying, oh, all she wants is just a strong Britain. Maybe perhaps it's in the interest of Britain, whether it's conservative or Labour, to be seen to be very friendly with the US. After all, they are not slamming them with heavy tariffs, and there are other considerations in terms of energy and trade that they are still working on. That may be where she's coming from. However, when it came to Greenland, she told the same line as Kestama and the other European states who only yesterday issued a statement to say that a threat to Greenland, which is a territory of Denmark, will be a threat to the whole of Europe and will be a threat to NATO.
Right.
Because that could be the beginning of the collapse of NATO. So Kemi Badenoch, following that pattern, also spoke from both sides of the mouth. So you could say that she's just being clever by half. Dragging Nigeria to it has become some kind of fixation, which I think maybe someday will disappear. The veil on her face will clear, and she'll be able to see clearly. Who is that musician? He said, I can see clearly.
I forgot his
So when the rain is done, she will be able to see clearly.
Yes, well, until that day. But let's now go to some breaking news that we're just getting. With Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja hinting that there are some attempts by lawyers and litigants to influence the money laundering trial of the former Attorney General Abubakar Malami, scheduled to begin on the 17th of February. Now, the judge stated this after granting Malami, his son Abdulaziz, and his wife Bashir Asabe bail in the sum of 500 million naira each. Now, in a stern warning right after the delivering of the ruling granting Malami and the others bail, the justice said that he would not take lightly any lawyer or litigant intent on approaching him to influence the case. Now, he advised parties to instead engage the services of quality lawyers to help with this case. He threatened serious consequences for anyone who flouts his directive. And on the terms of bail for Malami and his co-defendants, the trial judge ordered that they present 2 sureties each who must be owners of properties with proof in either Maitama, Gwarimpa, or Asokoro, all in Abuja. Now, the defendants are also ordered to deposit their passports with the court registry, adding that travel out of the country must be by the express permission of the court. Now, Malami and his co-defendants will meanwhile remain in prison until they perfect the terms of this bail, and the trial is scheduled to start on the 17th of February. I think, Dr. Abati, maybe I'll start with you on this.
Okay.
Breaking news. You know, how should we be looking at this story?
That's a very serious allegation for, Justice Emeka Nwite to say that some lawyers have been trying to influence the presiding judge. That's contemptuous in the face of it. Whether it's in the face of the court or it's away from the face of the court. So, and as a presiding judge, he has the right, to charge people for contempt and to sanction them. Because lawyers are trained to be officers in the temple of justice. Now, whether you are standing for the one side, right, or for the other side, whether you are a defendant or you are the one prosecuting the matter, you cannot influence the court. And that's why the independence of the court of law is very important. And every lawyer is supposed to know this. In fact, it will be an ethical infraction for you to approach a judge and to try to influence him. And this is part of the basis of the corruption that people talk about in the justice administration system. Most Nigerians are wont to accuse the judges, but the lawyers are part of the problem. All this, there are ambulance lawyers, there are, lawyers who try to exert influence instead of focusing on their law books and how to present a case in court. So the learned judge is pointing to something that is a problem within the justice administration system. But it's not for the for his lordship to complain. It is for him to identify those people and make sure that they are sanctioned. And it is not only the court that can sanction them. The Nigerian Bar Association also has a disciplinary committee that can also intervene. In fact, in more serious situations, the names of such persons, depending on the gravity of their offenses, can be struck off the register. That's that about that. Bail is at the discretion of the judge. I don't think that there's any issue about that. There was an application for bail. At the time the defending counsel applied for it, oral and written applications were submitted at the same time, and the judge said he could not take both at the same time. And the prosecuting counsel said that he just got it overnight and he had not had time to even study it. And it was on the basis of that that the matter was adjourned to January 7, which is today. And then the judge has now granted, the bail. And, thereafter, the date will be fixed for the next hearing. But what is important...
17 February.
Okay, it's been fixed for 17 February. But what we should say is that, 1, there should be no media trial. 2, due process should be followed. 3, every accused person is entitled to fair hearing under sections 35 and 36 of the 1999 Constitution. And no man can be adjudged guilty until he has been convicted by a court of law with proper jurisdiction. So even the commentariat and the intelligentsia should refrain from convicting anybody.
Very good points. We'll keep watching that, especially for that next hearing, 17th of February.
There's a story that the same circumstance at which that nurse died, another lawyer died like that about 2 days ago in Abuja.
Hmm.
I've gotten 2 messages like that.
Okay.
I'll have loved to speak about that because we need to fix that.
Maybe for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good point. Now, very quickly, before we take our good news report, we'll briefly highlight our photo of the day, posted on the Instagram page of the Super Eagles player Ademola Lookman. So Lookman shared this photo of himself with his teammate, Victor Osimhen, on Tuesday with the caption, "Together Always." It comes after crowds and fans saw outbursts between the two of them during their game against Mozambique on Monday. Now, football fans had come for Osimhen for his treatment of Lookman during the game. And, also yesterday we had officials of the Nigeria Football Federation disclosing that any beef between the two of them has been resolved, with the team now focused on Saturday's quarterfinal game with Algeria in Marrakesh.